What do you want to leave with? You can type it in the chat or you can just speak up.
I just want to learn more about dealing with for sale by owners, because it seems like out here where I am, there are a lot of them. I looked it up this morning after the 8 o'clock call, and there's a handful of them out here. And I'd like to just learn more about how to deal with them and give them a call and you know, try to perfect my script, so to speak.
I'd like to learn how to convince a for sale by owner that they need me.
Are you convinced they need you?
Yes. Well, I feel like they need me, but maybe that's confidence there. I need more confidence. They need me.
Well,
So Blair is going to put some things some links in the chat. Hey, Richard.
Hey, good morning.
Happy day.
Happy sunny day.
It is, isn't it?
Yes.
I got it.
So Blair's going to put a couple things in the chat that you can download. I'd like to see if you're successful with that. If you could check your when she puts this in.
So there's one that is the handout, and I did receive your Audie email. That is going into the chat right now. And there we go. Okay, so those should both be in the chat, and we should be good to go.
So Tina, why do you think that for sale by owners need you?
To protect them, to get them out of this craziness of the market. I mean, how many for sale by owners is going to want to sit there and do net sheets, and they don't even have a clue how contracts are coming in. They don't know contracts or anything like that. They're just saying, okay, well, let's go to closing and do it. I've worked with the flat rate fee that I got shoved off the for sale by owner, really. And every single day, for sale by owner was calling me, wanting me to answer his questions of what he thought he was getting protected by the flat rate fee, and he did not. They just said, hey, I'll put it on the market for you and you do it.
So you're saying there are some pitfalls?
Oh, yeah. He didn't even know how to read his contract. He didn't know nothing about the contract whatsoever. He didn't know none of the laws. He didn't know how to do disclosures, and you don't have to legally do the disclosures, but still, again, the buyer would want them. My buyer wanted them, and I had to send him everything that he needed to fill out. He didn't have none of the paperwork. He didn't even know how to read it. I had to give him the information of the title company, where to go to get a net sheet, because I was a single agent for my buyer. My buyer loved the house, but it was flat rate fee. So flat rate just said, send all your questions to the seller.
So the hurdle is three things, you guys, that Tina's that she's expressing she's struggling with. One of the three things that's a hurdle is you have to be convinced yourself that there is a benefit to the for sale by owner in working with you. The second is you have to know clearly what that benefit is and be able to articulate it. And that's where most of us struggle, right? So if you divide that in half, there's two things: understanding it, knowing really well what those pitfalls are, being convinced that your the solution to that and knowing how to express that, and then being able to articulate that to the seller. I'm gonna see if I can show you something that might help. Tell me what you guys are seeing on the screen right now.
A white.
A blank screen.
With a little better
Right.
home down here.
Yeah.
No,
Can you see it? Richard, are you seeing a little better homes logo in the bottom of the
yeah, I
white?
see a logo at the bottom right.
All right. So tell me if this is what you're trying to articulate, Tina.
Yep, that's it.
All right.
Oh, I want to print this.
I just thought that was fun, don't you?
I need that.
Oh, I'll get it to you, Tina, but I will say that that's probably not going to be the convincer for them. What I want it to be is the convincer for you, okay? I need you to see that truly should be the difference every time with a for sale by owner versus working with us. So both of these documents that are in here contain scripts and worksheets. And I believe most of that you can go over yourself. I don't need to spend a lot of time articulating those. We're going to work with some of the scripts, but I want you to get the idea behind it. I want us to overcome those three problems today. So let me see if I can find what I'm looking for. All right, one of the documents is this one. Can you see what, does it say agent assisted homes sell for more than for sale by owners?
Yes.
All right, so if you're taking notes, this is a handout that you got that you could share right here. And it comes from the 2019 profile of home buyers and sellers by National Association of Realtors. You guys, that's available to you on the NAR website every year. And that's a document you should study every year. It talks about what motivates buyers, sellers. It talks about what's important to them. But what they pulled out of this for 2019, the median priced home for sale by owner sold for $80,000 less than the median priced home of those that were listed for sale. Now, part of that could be that realtors just list more expensive homes, but there isn't any question that no matter what source you look at, whether you go to the Princeton School of Real Estate and look at their statistics, for sale by owners typically net 12 or 13% less than those properties that are listed with the full service agency that they're paying a full service commission. That's what they net difference, net. So from that standpoint, if you understand that, it does not make any sense for somebody to go through all those pitfalls on the fun video that we just saw, the hassles of selling it themselves just to net less money, right? Makes no sense. FSBOs only make up 7% of home sales. You guys, if you click on this link and dig into this, it's stunning that 93% of all homes sell with a realtor involved. Now, some may sell with a one-time showing agreement. So there's a tech, they're sold it themselves, but that an agent was involved. But imagine that you're paying a commission for somebody to negotiate against you in this market. To not have That's what that 7%. But here's the stunning part. 4 or 5% of the market is builder sales and family friend sales. So this 7%, the largest percentage of those are direct to family member sales. In other words, mom and dad selling the house to the kids or something like that, or builder direct sales. There's really only about 2 or 3%, 2 or 3 out of 100 for sale by owners that successfully sell their home themselves. That's huge. And if you articulate that at the right time in the right setting, it creates for the FSBO what they need to create, which is some doubt in their mind that they're making a wise decision to go it themselves. So why would, oh, what did I just do? Why would somebody make that decision? I put this up in your notes. Stephen Covey says in the 7 Habits, the book we're doing at book club, by the way, that you should begin with the end in mind. So I start with, what do sellers don't want? They do not want a realtor that's going to place a sign in the yard, put the property in the MLS and pray that it sells. And that is what most people think that, particularly in today's market, real estate agent does. They're going to get 6 or 7%, put a sign in the yard, put it in MLS and pray that it sells. The 3 Ps of real estate marketing, right? And isn't that what normally they do?
Mhm.
You guys, I want to tell you something. Number 1 is a script. It's a dialogue that you can use when you say, I am not a typical real estate agent that just places a sign in the yard, puts a property in MLS and prays that it sells. That's an introduction to your marketing, right? And they don't want to pay a commission. So if you knock on the door of a for sale by owner or you call one, they don't want a realtor. Would you agree?
Yep.
All right, so they don't want a realtor, and they especially don't want one that's going to just put a sign in the yard, place it in the MLS and pray that the property sells. They don't want to pay a commission. You guys, this right here, what sellers want, is absolutely worth the time that you're in this workshop right now. If you don't get anything else but a firm grip on this center statement, what sellers want, you're going to leave with something you can really use. So what they want is a trusted advisor. They want a master marketer. They want a skilled negotiator. They want an organized project manager, and they want a resourceful problem solver. They might not know yet that's what they want, but that is what they want. Do you see on here where it says they're looking for someone that sold more houses than anybody else last year?
No.
Oh, huh.
Hmm.
Does it say that they want somebody that's been in business forever?
Nope.
It doesn't say that either. Do they want somebody that is really slick and they kind of don't know whether they can trust them or not? They don't. I'm telling you, this is what they want in a real estate agent. So who can tell me what else they want?
They want someone to make it easier.
There you go.
They want someone to be a friend, You know, they want them to be, I guess that would be under trusted advisor, but they want somebody that they can talk to about any questions they have. I don't, you know.
Somebody with open communication that's going to get back to them.
Communication.
Okay, did you see what I just tapped in here?
Yes.
They want the highest net. Most amount of money. I put that one first on purpose because that's the reason they haven't already hired an agent, is because they don't think they're going to get the highest net, most amount of money on the sale. They also want the least amount of hassle, and they want a timely sale. Everything that a seller wants is in this paragraph right here. So our job is to help them see you as that solution. And we need to be able to articulate why that they may not be able to do that themselves. Because the fact that they're choosing to sell on their own is because they think they can do these three things better than working with a real estate agent. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, if they were absolutely convinced that you could get them the highest amount of money, least amount of trouble for the sale, and a timely sale. Usually that's the quickest sale, but sometimes they'd rather not close until June or July. So timely is a better word there. Why would they not list with you? They'd have to be illogical, wouldn't they? So here's the challenge. If you want to be a listing expert, you need to give them what they want, but first you've got to be what they want. Does that make sense? So if I call on a for sale by owner, either in person or on the telephone, does it make sense for me to begin to tell them what a great real estate agent I am?
No. It can actually be interpreted as, you're not smart enough to do this on your own. I'm so much smarter than you.
That could be interpreted that way. Absolutely. So what I'm suggesting that you do is use scripts and dialogues that begin to do two things. Cause them to question whether they can do these things themselves, and to see you as these 5 things at the top. Okay. If they believe that you are these 5 things at the top, they will be convinced that you can provide the A, B, and C on this list. If they believe you're a trusted advisor, a master marketer, a skilled negotiator, an organized project manager, and a resourceful problem solver, they know that you, as a problem solver and an organized manager, are going to be able to handle the timely sale with the least amount of hassle. And as a skilled negotiator, master marketer, and a trusted advisor, you're going to be able to help them get the highest money for their house. Would you agree? Nobody agrees?
I agree.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Because I don't want to go there if you guys don't agree. Has everybody downloaded the basic scripts here?
Yes.
Was that in the chat? Yes.
Okay. So here is my approach when I work with for sale by owners, and I will tell you that I found it to be almost impossible for people to resist. Ultimately, they have to be illogical. to resist. I use the telephone most usually and call for sale by owners. Here's the thing I will tell you. The closer you can actually get to them, the better conversion opportunity you're going to have, which
Mhm.
means you're more likely to convert if you're actually with them in their house, on the front porch or whatever. So you can reach a lot more people with direct mail or advertising on the internet and places like that. The problem is the conversion is so poor. The problem with going door knocking is it takes more time and you drive all the way across town, knock on a door and they're not home, or it's an inconvenient time. So I like the phone because it's kind of a balance between the two. Although these scripts will work for you on the front door if you drive by one and you see. Now, most of the time I tell people you should understand the concept behind the script and then just write your own, make it your own. With these right here, I'm going to tell you, you should memorize them exactly like they are. You can change them later if you want to, but you should memorize these scripts exactly like they're written. When I was pretty new in the real estate community, I was trying hard to work with buyers because I was really poor and I needed a paycheck like today. And listings took 16 months back then to sell. Interest rates were 16.5%. My broker required a 1-year listing and still most of them expired and you had to relist them to get them sold. So I couldn't see the logic behind wanting to take listings and spend money on them and, whatever. But I did eventually take a listing and I was doing open house every day somewhere, not in my listing. Driving buyers around all over town, some of them that weren't qualified. And my wife talked me into taking the kids to the beach one Saturday, and I told her I had to be done by 4 for an open house at 4:00. So we went early, and as we were showering the kids off, I could hear my pager vibrating in the car. And when I jumped in the car and checked the pager, it was a text from my office. So I'm thinking, oh God, I must be losing a buyer here. Raced up to Peg Leg Pete's and jumped out with my sack of quarters to the payphone, dialed and listened to my recorded message. Richard, you'll appreciate this. It was Callie Bonifay. And Callie said, Audie, this is Callie. You don't need to call me back, honey. I just dropped a contract off here at the office for you on your little old property over there on Elm Street. I don't remember the address. It's a good offer. You can get back to me Monday. Just don't let anybody bring another one in on top of me now, honey. And I hung up the phone and I thought, wow, I just made $2,000 at the beach with my kids. And my second thought is I don't have any more listings. And that's when I set out to figure out how to do it. So the next week I called on my first for sale by owner and I got really lucky. When I picked the phone up and called him, I didn't really know what to say. We didn't have training back then. I mean, you couldn't buy scripts for sale by owners. You couldn't get them. So I just called and I said, hey, my name is Audie Street with Atkins Real Estate Company. I was calling to talk to you about listing your house. And I'm not lying to you. The guy yelled out, honey, there's some realtor on the phone wants to list the house. I could hear her. She was probably in the kitchen, This was right at dinner time, literally, or just a little before 5 o'clock. I think I started. She yelled from the kitchen, well, you've been saying you're going to hire one. See if he wants to come over. Yeah, I mean, how good is this? So, I went over. I didn't know what I was doing. And they led. They walked me through the house and they asked these questions. Well, you're going to put us in MLS, aren't you? Yeah. And do we need to put a sign in the yard, do you think? Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. That's important. Now you guys use them lockbox things. They had keys back then, by the way, Yeah. yeah, we'll put one on. What about if people break in? Well, nobody's got keys except realtors, you know, it's safe, but if you guys are both working, you got to be able to get in during the day. And he said, okay. So then he says, do you think you can get 59,000 for this? I said, yes, sir. We used books back then. We didn't even use a computer to go look at comps. This was a little townhouse over by the airport, and there were like 6 or 7 on the same street for sale for 59,000. So, you know, that made it pretty easy to do a comp in my head. I messed up because his had a single car garage, and all the rest of them that were 59,000 had no garage. So I should have priced it about 1,500, 2,000 more, but it was a good mistake because it sold fast. First one to sell on the street because it was underpriced by a garage, you know. But anyway, then he said, so what do you charge? 7%? That's what all you guys charge, isn't it? I said, yes, sir. He said, okay, what do we need to do? I said, well, we need to get a listing agreement signed so I can put you in MLS. He said, okay, let's do it. I didn't have one. I didn't bring a listing agreement with me to that appointment. That's how green I was. So that was my first experience. I was excited to go call the second one a few days later. And the second one I called, I'm not lying to you. I said, I've got more gusto in my voice now. This is Audie Street with Adkins Real Estate Company. I was calling to talk to you about listing your house. And he said, well, first of all, it's a lot, not a house. And why in the hell should I pay you to do something I can do just as well myself? And I just stammered and stuttered. I didn't have an answer for that. And I said, I'm sorry I bothered you, hung up. That was the beginning of the scripts I'm getting ready to give you, because every time I got stumped, I got out a legal pad and I wrote what I wished I'd have said. And I revised it and I put it on a 3x5 card so I could drive around with them and read them. Initially, I put them on the cards because I thought when somebody asked me that again, I'll just find the card real quick and answer it. Well, that didn't work, you know, but writing it on a legal pad and transferring it to a card, I began to get a pretty good index. And I will tell you that within 3 or 4 months, I could not talk to anybody on the phone unless they were completely illogical that didn't agree to work with me or let me at least come and see the property, which is the goal. You're not going to take a listing on the phone. You've got to get in front of them. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you guys, and I haven't done these in a long time, so I'm going to be kind of rusty, but I'd like to do a pretend phone call. Let you see what it kind of sounds like. And I'll interrupt here a little bit from time to time and give you some detail on this. Is that fair? Who would like to be a seller? I need somebody to role play with. Awesome.
I will, Audie.
Okay. Now you have to be logical, but you don't have to be easy, okay?
I'll do my best to be logical.
Okay. Ring, ring.
Hello.
Hi, this is Audie Street. I'm with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate. I was calling about your house for sale.
How'd you know my house was for sale?
Oh, wow, you jumped right into it. You know, I'm not sure. Real estate's my life. It's what I do. I have a lot of friends and family members that are always giving me phone numbers and addresses of properties they think I might be interested in. Your house is for sale, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's for sale by owner. I'm not,
Right.
you know, I'm just gonna plan to sell it myself.
I understand. I know if you wanted to hire a real estate agent, you would already called me. I was just calling to get a little information about your property. Could you help me with that, please?
Okay, I can, but it needs to be short because, you know, I've got 4 kids and I've gotta, you know, I can't be away from them too long.
Is there a time you'd rather me call back?
Not particularly. I'll just go ahead and talk to you now.
Great. So now I would begin to ask her questions about the house. If you look at the scripts, it says to do that. And what I'm going to suggest that you do is build your own question sheet for this. And a good thing to use to get you started is your MLS input sheet. Print it out, right? Now, this is important. You can't have looked the property up on the tax records, and you do not want anything on your desk that tells you anything about the property, right? If I'd have said to her, well, I picked the flyer up out of your box on the front porch. When I start to ask her questions about the house, she's going to say, well, it's on your flyer, dummy, right? If I told her I saw it on Facebook, she's going to say the same thing. So that's the reason I never say where I got the house, and the only thing I want is a notepad with a phone number on it. If I've got flyers or information on it, all that goes underneath, because you have to have the mindset here that you don't want anything except information about the property. You guys, you do not know whether you want this listing or not. Do you? If it's crazy overpriced or ate up with termites, you might not want to fool with it, right? I mean, everybody's going to have your criteria. And here's another thing. Do you know for sure that you don't want to buy it? Or don't have a family member that wants to buy it? What if they said, all I want is somebody to pay off my loan? Really, what do you owe? $30,000. Really?
I'll be right over.
That's exactly right. So you stay in that frame of mind. Even if you're not in the market for a house, you want them to wonder whether I'm calling to get information because I want to buy it, or I'm calling to get information because I want to list it. And if you notice, when she said it's for sale by owner, I'm not interested in working with a realtor. However she said that, I said, I understand that if you were looking to hire a realtor, I know you'd already called me. That's kind of fun, right? But oftentimes what you get when you say that is, then are you interested in buying my house, or do you just want to list it? And your response should be, I don't know if my team would be interested in buying the house or listing the house. I just don't know enough about it. I'm just calling to get a little information about your property. Could you help me with that, please? Please is a powerful word, you guys. I won't say we don't. A lot of people aren't comfortable saying please, but you should. And that kind of helps break that down. The reason I'm suggesting that you memorize these scripts is that you can begin to put emphasis on the words where you want them to be. I'm just calling to get information about your property. Could you help me with that, please? That emphasis, that tonality oftentimes will break down resistance quite a bit. Does that make sense? All right. So she gave in pretty quickly and said she'd talk with me. What else could she have said, Richard?
At least you got a good dialogue going with her.
Yeah, I do.
You do.
So Audie, I have a question.
Sure.
Personally, from being a for sale by owner seller before I became a real estate agent. So that perspective is the fact that if somebody called, just tell me what you think about this, because personally, if someone called me without any information, I would question whether they have the ability to do their due diligence, because this day and age, so much is available online. They don't even have to leave their, house to go online and get the tax record. So personally, when somebody called and already knew about it, and they then asked, can you give me more specific information? It meant more to me, because I felt like, okay, that's somebody that they're doing a little bit of digging before they waste my time in calling me to ask me information they can already find online.
So Janice, let me ask you a question. Did you actually have somebody call you and use this kind of dialogue right here?
I did.
That would surprise me, that number one, that somebody's doing this, because most people don't. But number two, that would be the thought process of someone who's not in real estate. Well, this is a dummy who hadn't even bothered to look the house up. You know, I mean, you're getting a phone call, kind of caught off guard. I'm calling to get some information about your house. I'm not saying that that might not occasionally happen. But I think that would be more rare. I think if someone is a real estate agent, they're going to think, well, why didn't you look it up? Or, you know, and I will tell you this, sometimes you'll get a response that says, it's on Zillow. You could look it up there. You
Yeah.
know, I have got that response,
Mhm.
you know, before. And I would say, you know, sometimes Zillow is not the most accurate source. Would you be able to just give me about 5 minutes to give me some information for my notes?
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times they'll say, well, you know, I'm not interested in working with an agent. Why do you want to know? And I go back to the dialogue that I used at the beginning. Real estate's my life. It's what I do. So it's important. And you'll notice the word "for" is underlined in these scripts. It is in this dialogue. If you mess up and say "to" instead of "for," you're not going to get the same response. I found this by accident. You know, I used to say it's really important to me to know as much I can about everything's for sale in the market. Your house is for sale. And I'd get pretty good response, but not great. When I stumbled upon changing the word to "for," everything changed. Response was really different. And so when I really took some time to think about it, this is what I believe and why I think that word is important. They don't care what's important to me. So it's important to me to know as much as what do I care? But if it's important for me to know, it might be important to them for me to know. Do you see the difference? It's very slight, but so I said it's very important for me to know as much as I can. Usually they just break down and say, what do you want to know? And you can hear it in their voice. They may not be warm and fuzzy with you yet. Every response is going to be different. Some right away want to talk to you because they're going to say, I'm willing to pay 2% if you bring me a buyer. They've already read that book and they're ready for that, right? Yeah, you can, if you bring me a buyer, it's 2% or whatever. I'm not saying these work absolutely every time, but once again, Janice, even if on the other end they think, well, this guy or gal didn't do their due diligence, they don't know nothing about the house, they just call me, don't know anything, that's pretty stupid. It's okay, you're still going to have a dialogue with them and eventually break that down.
Right.
What I want to do is, as quick as possible on this phone call, move from me talking to them talking and me listening. I want to do that as quick as I can in this conversation. We think the purpose of scripts is so that we can say really smart things, and usually that is the case or often, but really the purpose here is to get them to talking. Who is in control of the conversation?
The one asking the questions.
The one asking the questions. You know, if you got kids, you know that when they come home with their grade cards and it's not good, Mama, can I go out to play? No, you need to do your homework. Mama, what are we going to have for dinner? I'm working on that now. Go to your room, do your homework. I mean, they just want to ask you questions so you don't say, wait a minute, isn't this grade card? Where's your grade card? I mean, we kind of instinctively know the one asking the questions. So if you look, what's going to happen here is we're going to move into a place really quickly of asking questions. And that's why a lot of these end with a question. You know, if I'm not willing to list the house, why do you want to know? Real estate's my life, what I do. It's important for me to know as much as I can about everything that's on the market. Watch this. Your house is for sale, isn't it? I just regained control of the conversation. She got control on the phone when she said, I'm not willing to list, so why do you want to know? She asked a question. She got control of the conversation. I take it back with another question. And this doesn't need to feel like confrontational. It should feel conversational. Does that make sense? Could you help me with that, please? Is a question that tenderly gives you control of the conversation again. And so when they break down and say, what do you want to know? My suggestion is that you start with questions that can be answered really easy with one word. And you need to write everything down that they're giving you, because information properly used is power. And now you're gaining information. You're gaining information about the house, and you're gaining information about the person and their motives for selling. So I'm going to say, so tell me, how big is your home? 1,800 square foot. Is that heated and cooled or under roof? Well, I don't know. It's just what they told me it was when we bought it, or that's what the tax records say it is. And you will often, they'll say that, I don't know, heated and cool. What do you mean? They will sometimes say that. And that gives you an opportunity to show that you're a trusted advisor by explaining the difference to them. And it gives you a chance to be a trusted advisor to say, if you're not sure, I'd be happy to come out and help you measure the house. I don't charge for that. Whoa, you're a trusted advisor and a problem solver with that offer. Does that make sense? So how many bedrooms, how many baths, how large is your lot? Well, it's the same size as everything else in the neighborhood. Guess what? They got another problem. They don't know the dimensions of their lot. You can be the trusted problem solver. You might want to share with them then. Now they can go on to county tax records and look it up, but sometimes just sending them that in the mail. Don't say anything about it. They just say, I don't know, it's the same size as everything else. I think it's about 1/4 of an acre. If in 2 days or 3, they get a note card from you saying, I appreciate you talking with me about it. And by the way, you mentioned that your property was 1/4 of an acre. According to the tax records, it's 90 by 150. That's just short of 1/3 of an acre. Hope this helps. You just showed trusted advisor and resourceful problem solver. Now the next person that asks the size of my lot, I'm going to know, thanks to the help of Richard Brazil. He was awesome. He sent me that. So in writing down the answers to the questions, I'm looking for places that I can help. Maybe I offer it then. Maybe I just circle it and send them a note with it on it. Does that make sense? So early questions: how big is your home? Number of bedrooms? Number of baths? Do you have a formal dining room? Does your living room face the front or the back of the house? Is it a split bedroom plan? And so you're listening with empathy to these questions. And that sounds like this. Oh, good. Now, if I ask you, does your living room face the front or the back of the house? And you say it faces the back, and I say, oh, good, or that's nice. What's going on in your head, in the back room of your head? Whoa, he must really be interested. Oh, he must have a buyer that has interest in a house with the living room on the back of the house, right? So we move from the one question answers to questions that are more open-ended. And that would sound like this. Can you tell me a little bit about your kitchen? Now, when you have mastered these scripts and this technique of asking, when you've got your question sheets there on size, number of bedrooms, number of baths, split bedroom, size of the lot, what are you asking for the property? That's a one-word question, right? 250. All of those ones where you got those, when you get to the point where you can do that with your eyes closed, you're going to be able to listen to the tonality of their voice. And so if I say, so could you tell me a little bit about your kitchen? What do you want to know? We haven't really connected yet. They still don't want, they don't see, right? So What do you want to know? Well, tell me about your cabinets. Are they white painted, natural wood? And they tell you. Oh, nice. What about your countertops? Granite. Wow. Okay. And if you know, and you might, because you know the neighborhood, because that's one that you ask up in the front is, I'll get to that question a little bit later, but you're going to ask it before you get to these. So you could comment that a lot of houses in this price range don't have countertops. That's nice. What's the style of your kitchen? What do you mean? Well, is it a galley style kitchen, or do you have an island? Do you have an eat-in kitchen? Does it have a bar? Tell me about the kitchen. And so they'll explain it. And when they say it's an eat-in kitchen, so breakfast nook, yes. Is that on the front or back of the house? It's on the back with a bay window. Oh my gosh, it's got a bay window. I want them to hear me writing bay window. I'm pausing at that, right? And you can do that when you don't have to think about what you're gonna ask next. So don't you want to know what kind of flooring it has? You're gonna ask that. What year was the house built is a one-word question up in the front, right? So now I'm going to refer to that and I'm going to say, so you told me the house was built in 85. Have there been any upgrades to the kitchen? Oh yeah, we got new appliances. Oh good. What kind? I'm going to ask them everything I can about the kitchen. And then I will often ask them this, by the way, does the kitchen have a window behind the sink? Because we know a lot of houses do, right? Yes, it does. And does that face the backyard or the front? Whatever they tell me. Oh, awesome. I'm going to write that down, right? So I'm showing interest in the home. And by the way, isn't a window looking out the backyard awesome on a listing?
Mhm.
It is a cool thing. Don't say everything's cool. You can't answer that to everything, right? So now I say, can you tell me a little bit about your living room? If you're listening and it happens here, you're going to hear a distinct difference between when you ask them, tell them about the kitchen. They're going to say, well, it's got a fireplace, vaulted ceilings. Uh-oh, well, now we're connecting. You hear what I call downshifts in their voice. Throughout this process, you hear the changes in their voice as they're relaxing with you and you're not jumping into a sales presentation. Make sense? So I do the same thing in the living room. I ask them about, do you have vaulted, if they don't know vaulted ceilings or volume ceilings, does the living room or the family room, great room design, does it have a entrance and exit to the backyard? Oh, good. Then I'll go right into, what about a deck out there, a patio? I want to know about that. Is it covered? What do they have in porches? I go to the most intimate room in the house last, which is the master bedroom, and I'll say the same thing. Tell me about, can you share with me a little bit about your master bedroom? Oh, it's a bedroom. Master suite closets in the bathrooms, or are they in the, do you access them directly from the bedroom? Oh, we got his and her closets in the bathroom. You go into the bathroom. Oh, that's good. And then I'll just start asking them about the bathroom. Countertops, tile. They'll tell me it's got a jacuzzi tub. I'll say that's good. Then I'll ask this question. By the way, do you have air conditioning vents in your closets? You do, good. Usually they'll say, I don't know. But I guarantee you they'll go look after they get off the phone, right? You just ask an intriguing question with them. I usually ask, do you have, if you're determining it's the type of house that might, is there an exit from the master suite into the backyard, and if it is, I'll make kind of a big deal about that. So this process will take about 10 or 15 minutes going through the house. When you get kind of used to doing this, you guys, you'll be able to kind of almost have your eyes closed, open just enough to write, and you can visualize that house as you're going through it. You can really see the house, So in this process somewhere, I have a couple of interrupts and they're in the scripts. So I would say early in there, I'm going to ask them where the house is at, the address of the property, right? That's kind of an interrupt. And then, and sometimes I'll say, oh, real quick, what's the address? Where's the home located? And then I say, that's good. I want to ask that kind of early as I'm approaching the end of the single word questions, because now I'm going to be able to refer to the neighborhood as if I know the neighborhood, because I am going to know the neighborhood. To Janice's point, I know where the house is already. Maybe I'm going to know what area it's in, and I'll be able to comment on that a little bit. If you do know the neighborhood, but somewhere in here, I'm going to say, if you'll jump back into role play with me. Wow, I just realized I don't know who I'm talking to. Again, my name is Audie with Better Homes and Gardens Main Street Property. What is your name?
Andrea Elliott.
Andrea. Nice to meet you, Andrea.
Nice to
That's
meet
an interrupt in the middle. And from that point on, I will use Andrea's name, right? So at this point, if I'm feeling like this conversation is going good, I might close right here for an appointment. I might say, Andrea, your home really sounds interesting to me. Can I ask you, why are you selling?
Well, we just decided that we want to change residence. We just were looking for something new. We're not in a tremendous hurry to sell.
Oh, that puts you in a good position. So when would be a time I could come by and take a preview of the home?
Well, I've got the kids and everything during the day today, so I don't know, tomorrow,
Great.
2
And
o'clock.
I'm gonna get a time for tomorrow, right? What's some other things that she could say when I ask her when I could come by and preview the property?
I'm still trying to sell it by myself.
Yeah, I understand that. If I had a buyer that would pay my commission in your price, would you be willing to work with me then? What can they say to that? They could say no. Now you're talking to somebody that's not logical.
Mhm.
I would say once you're comfortable with this, and you may be comfortable with it tomorrow, don't give up at that point. You know, to that response, it's not in your scripts, but I would say, wow, it sounds like you've really had a bad experience with a realtor at some point in time. And to that, they'll usually say, yes, I have. I find most of them just want to stick a sign in the yard and earn 7% commission. I get that. You know, the hardest part of my job, believe it or not, is working with other realtors. There's some good people in the business, and there's some that's hard to deal with. So, Andrea, I am one of the good ones. Could I come by?
That's the same thing. That's the same thing that the bad one told me.
Well, I get it. Why don't you judge for yourself? When could I come by, take a quick preview of the house, and you and I really meet?
Okay.
Now,
So,
please understand, once in a great while, somebody's going to say never. Well, that's going to be really, really rare. I mean, Andrea, wasn't it kind of hard to be mean to me when I said that?
yes.
I mean, it really is. I'm not being pushy and over whatever. I'm saying I'm one of the good ones. When can I come by? That's a really difficult close, but you know, it does happen sometimes that they'll be illogical and say, you know, I don't want to, never. No, I wouldn't pay. I wouldn't, if I could get my price and they'd pay your commission, I wouldn't work with you. You're talking to somebody there that's either hurt or they're just really bullheaded and they're not going to be logical. And what did you learn? Maybe you learned I just don't want to work with these people.
Right.
And that's okay. Or maybe what you learned is they're not ready yet. somebody that's that illogical, I am going to tell you, is not likely to be successful in selling their house themselves. Or if they are, they're going to sell it for way less than it's worth because they're going to upset somebody in the process, right?
What if those people, I mean, have you had experiences where those people have tried and not been successful and then called you back?
Well, they don't typically call me back. I'm going to tell you that the key here is your follow-up. All right. Sometimes I don't close for an appointment. If I feel like we're not making progress, or they tell me that, well, we're going to try this for a few more weeks myself, then maybe I don't, and I do the follow-up. But they're going to get a phone call from me every week, and they're going to get a note card from me immediately after this phone call. When I finish making my calls at 8:30, I take out the note cards and write everybody a note. If I'm going to send them a printout from the tax records or anything like that, and understand this, they probably have looked their property up on the tax themselves. They could have got that information. It's not that, and that would be truly helpful. You can go to tax rolls, find out for sure, but I just don't do that. I send it to them instead because I want that opportunity to say, look, he spent, 56 cents on a stamp to send me this. What a nice guy. That's what the whole conversation is about. I don't know if I want to buy the house. I don't know if I want to list the house. I don't know if I'm going to like you enough to do business with you. I don't know anything about the house. I'm just calling to get some information. Right. And I think by the end of the conversation, even if in the beginning they thought, well, geez, this is a lazy guy, he could have looked this up himself, I think they're going to, well, I know. I mean, I've made maybe thousands of these phone calls, but certainly over 1,000 of these, phone calls. And usually if you do this, once you kind of learn the scripts good, if you do it with 8, you're going to get 1 or 2 appointments to come out and see the property. You're going to choose not to close on 1 or 2, and you're going to have 1 or 2 in that 8 that aren't ready and willing at that point in time to say yes. So, if you kind of use 8 as a number and begin to measure, when you're listing 1 or 2 out of every 8 that you call, you're on a pretty good track with this. So when I say that they have to be illogical to not interact with me, I don't mean that means I'm always going to get the listing. Sometimes I help people sell it. In the conversation here, if they disclose they've had a lot of damage in a hurricane and had all the work redone, I'm going to talk to them about maybe the necessity of doing some disclosure on that. Hopefully you've got the names and documents so that you can provide that to a potential buyer on who did the work, and maybe I say something like, and by the way, have you checked to make sure that they cleared all the permits, that all the permits were cleared on the property? Might be a good thing for you to do. Then they're going to ask you, well, how do you do that? And you could say this to them, if you'd like, I could have my title assistant, I'm going to call title company, I could have them run a outstanding permit for you, and I'll let you know what they find. I say what I found, right? Just call Patty over at Surety and say, hey, would you check this address, see if there's any outstanding permits? Have her email that to me and I mail it to them, or I email it to them, right? There's just a lot of places in these conversations for us to be helpful.
Doing
Question?
an open house for them too? Is that a good one?
I don't. You could. I don't. But yeah, I think that would be an opportunity if you wanted to say, if you get to know them enough, I would probably get that on the tour of the house with them. That I would maybe say, if you would like, I could do an open house for you next weekend. I don't give usually free CMAs, and I don't give free services. I didn't And the market is different now because it's so hot. It might be, to pick up buyers, it might be worth doing that. But I give them a lot of free stuff that would help them sell it. And I don't get wrapped around the axle if they sell the house on their own. I am a resourceful problem solver. Sometimes I get paid for it and sometimes I don't get paid for it. I like to get paid for it. I want to get paid for it, And in being a resourceful problem solver, sometimes you have to help them understand that they have a problem. Do they know they should disclose roof repairs? They probably don't know that they should, right? Do they know that encouraging a buyer to do a home inspection is to their benefit too? They don't know that, but it is. It protects them as well, right? Is there any value to a seller to offer a home warranty on a house? Say yes, because there is. They don't even have the means to do that, much less know that they could, right? So in the other package, not the script package, but in the other one, there's a whole list of things that you should be really familiar with that are in that little video: the fall on the rocks, the valleys, the ladders, all of those pitfalls for people selling their house themselves are listed there. If you get familiar with those and you have the scripts really comfortable with them and you role played with it, you don't have to think, what am I going to ask next? You can listen, and when you hear them say that their house is 2,000 square feet, and you ask them, is that heated and cooled? And they say, well, we did an addition, we closed in our back patio, but it's got a window air conditioner in it. Is that heated and cooled, you guys? It's not, and they don't know that. And so you would then ask very gently, is that included in your living square footage in the house? I think it is. Sometimes that can be a problem with an appraiser. And you just leave it hanging. And then you get to the close with the end, and you would say, Andrew, your house seems really interesting to me. Would there be a time I could come by and do a quick preview? And when I do, I'll look at that patio enclosure and see if I have some recommendations on whether or not you can count that as heated and cooled square footage. You see, I told her up front earlier, 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, that might be an issue on the appraisal. Now I'm offering, when I come out to do the preview, that I'll look at that with you and maybe give you some suggestions on that. I'm bringing some value to this conversation, right? And when I get out there, I'm going to ask her, when you all did this, did you pull permits on it? That probably is going to come up in the closing. Resourceful problem solver.
So what do you do when they tell you, no, my husband built it?
I'm going to tell them that could be an issue at closing. And we would need to mitigate that maybe in the inspection process. It's really going to depend on what kind of financing the buyer is using and whether it's going to have a VA, FHA, or some type of a conventional appraisal. I don't want you to worry about it until I get an offer on the house, taking an assumptive approach that I'm going to get the listing right. And you don't have to solve the problem that day. Part of solving the problem is let them know they might have a problem with that. And, this comes up quite a bit. And it's the reason that sometimes when you're working with a lot of for sale by owners, you go out on a listing appointment and you take the listing, and in the process, they tell you that they had 4 contracts on the house and none of them closed. And you're standing there in that Florida room and you know why they didn't close. There's no permit on this thing and nobody was engaged in the transaction that could say, well, let's get an engineer to certify this thing and get the county to permit it, and we solved the problem. Right? Any other questions on the scripts? You guys are pretty easy on me here. I want to point out that on the last page of the scripts, I have some scripts there that are called parking scripts. Do you guys know what that is?
No,
It's what you do when you get a question that you don't want to answer yet. What would be some examples of questions you maybe don't want to answer early in the process?
How much is your commission?
Great, Valerie. You know, if in fact they are kind of considering maybe listing with an agent, that may be a question to ask, is how much your commission? And you don't ever want to talk commission with them until you've had an opportunity to present your value. I mean, it doesn't matter if you say my commission is only 2%. They don't know whether you're worth 2% or not. If you say, well, I would sell your house for 1%, I think I can sell it really fast. They don't know if you're worth 1% or not. So what you want is the opportunity to meet with them, share your value proposition with them, and then share what your commission is. And there's another reason that you don't want to share your commission at this point in time. You don't know them and you don't know the property well enough. So, you know, there's some properties that you would take a listing for 5% because you already have a buyer for it. And there's some that you're going to charge 7% plus an extra 0.5% because the seller's such a jerk, you know, you need a jerk factor in there. I'm teasing, but really, I mean, you know, you need more information before you can answer that. So a parking question is, how much is your commission? You're going to say, you know, I have a number of commission schedules. It really depends on how long I think it will take to sell, how much I think it will cost me to get it done, and of course, my client's expectations. I'd love to meet with you and discuss that when you're ready to consider hiring an agent. I'll go over those with you. Is that fair? Now, what can they say to that? You got to know, I'm telling you, the way this happened with me is I get stumped and then I'd have to write an answer. And I honestly did this with a spreadsheet. I mean, a flow chart, you guys. I put on the top, this is Audie with Atkinson Real Estate Company. I'd like to talk to you about selling your house. And they'd say, I'm at dinner, we're at dinner right now. Oh, I'm sorry, when's a better time? So I changed that to say, is this a good time to talk? And if they say, no, we're getting ready to have dinner, when could I call back? And if they say, yeah, it is, then I go down the other side of the flow chart, right? So on this script with the commission, what I found is sometimes it'd say, well, what's your range? Because I told them I have a number of commissions. So what's your range? So let me ask you guys, what's your range? Or do you have a range? I'm going to pick on the most seasoned agent in the room. Richard, you're right in the center of my screen too, by the way. I have all of you. You're right in the center. So Richard, what's your range?
Well, my range is, like you said, one thing you have to discuss or with yourself is how much it's going to cost you to get this house sold. And
But
how
do you
long it's
have a
gonna
range
take.
or do you have a fixed price?
I have a range.
What's your range?
Well, generally about 5 to 7.
Okay. So you wouldn't do it for 2%?
Typically, no.
Okay.
Unless they were my best friends and they had a lake and they had a boat and they had a a
Yeah.
condo in Perdido, then I would.
See, Richard, you're already thinking, what if they said, well, you know, my sister wants to buy the house. She's getting qualified at the bank now. I just need somebody to do the contract for me.
Oh, yeah, that's a good opener because then we're talking about a one-time listing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which
Richard's gonna do that.
benefits them and me and everybody. Everybody's happy.
You might do it for $1,000. You might
Sure.
do it for 1%, you know?
Sure.
So typically my answer to that when they ask is I say, I have a range typically runs between 2 and 8%. Again, and I repeat, it depends on what my client's expectations are, how long I think it will take to sell the home, how much I'm going to need to spend to get the job done. I'm not one of these agents that just puts a sign in the yard, puts it in MLS and prays that it sells. Do you kind of see how that works? When could I come by and preview your home?
Audie, in the beginning, when I first started doing some listings, I did the stair steps, 246.
Yeah.
You taught years ago that if they brought the buyer and I'm just working the paperwork, I would do it for the 2%.
Yeah, yeah. What if you say that? If you say my range is 2 to 8%, when you get to the listing presentation and you're ready to share the commission, they're going to probably remember and ask you, well, what about the 2%? And then you would say, you know, if I have to pay another agent in the transaction, my commission is 7%. If I sell it myself, 5%. But if you bring me the buyer and and at that point, I will handle all the paperwork, make sure the inspections get done. I'll negotiate the price. I'll even show them the house and write the contract. But because you brought me the buyer, I'll discount my commission to 2%. You know, that's a variable commission, and it is viable. And it's very powerful, you guys, for breaking down someone that when they ask your commission, you know, and this same parking script works in your listing presentation. If too early in the presentation, they say, well, what's your commission? You know, as I mentioned before, it really depends on my client's expectations. I got a few more things I need to learn about you and the property, and then I'd be prepared to discuss that and move right on or ask them another question. You're moving through, you're parking it again and again. You're parking, that's why it's called a parking script. You're parking it till you're ready to ask. So now you guys have talked about the price of their home and you're agreeing that, you know, what it is, and you've talked about your marketing program for them, and you can tell they're liking you. And I say, Richard, can I get started today? And Richard says, you didn't tell me what your commission is, right? I would say, Richard, it's 7, 8, or 9%. I'll let you pick. Look at his response. Andrea, how are you going to respond if I say 7, 8, or 9%? You get to pick.
I'm a smart aleck, so I would have gone 6.5.
I would say, Andrea, I don't always do this, but I like you. If I can start today, I would agree to that. I would take it at 6.5%. You know, she just whipped me. So you guys listen, that particular dialogue right there, 7, 8, or 9%, you get to pick. I stumbled on that by total accident. When you're comfortable with your scripts and you're not scared about whether you're going to get the listing or not, or they might eat me on this appointment, if you can really get detached from the outcome, and that's easy when a person's doing a lot of business, they don't need the listing. When you really need it, it's harder. But when you get to that, and so I knew me and this seller were connecting well, and his wife and I were she didn't talk as much as him, but there was a good connection there, and I was pretty sure I was going to get the listing. And he said to me, well, when I closed, you know, I said, I'd like to go ahead and get the sign up and get some marketing started on this, or however I closed that, you know, with him. Can I do that? Can we do that now? And he said, oh, wait, you didn't tell me what's your commission. You told me you got a variable commission. What's your commission? And I just smiled and I said, 7, 8, or 9%. I'd never said that before. Thinking, of course, he's going to say 7, or he's going to say, well, I'd like to have 6. And I'm not lying to you. This is what he said. First time I used this, he said, so what do I get for 8 and 9 that I don't get for 7? I couldn't believe it, you know? I mean, he didn't laugh. He took it seriously. And I think pretty good on my feet. And I just quickly said, well, I'll pay the entire extra over 7% as a bonus to really incentivize the buyer's agents out there to bring them in. Everybody's going to want to sell your house. And we put a 1 or 2% bonus on it. And he just thought for probably 3 seconds. And he said, Audie, here's what we're going to do. Let's start with 7% and see how we do. And we can look at something else in a month. I like to fell out of my seat. I'm using this from now on. And I always did. You know, I will tell you, your response, Andrea, is pretty close to the most common one I'd get. Most common one I'd get is they'd say, I was thinking more like 6%. Really, they were thinking 5 or 4, but they're embarrassed to say it. If they kind of like to have fun with you and they knew that might be kind of a joke, they'll say, I was thinking more like 4 or 5%, right? But look what we've done. We've moved right on past the thing of, are you going to pay me a commission to how much? That's movement, you know? And so always, you guys, I know this is not part of working with private sellers, but it is always, you want to then say, so Andrea, if I would, and I'm not saying I will, but if I would take the listing for 5%, would you work with me then? Could I get started today? And if she says anything else like, well, I need to think about it or whatever, we're not going to talk anymore about that. We're going to deal with that objection. You know, she might say, well, you know, I don't know what I do. I really like to do this, but my sister's a realtor. You know, I'm going to say, that's okay. I'll pay your sister a bonus if she sells a house. If I would, I'm not saying I would. I'll come right back to that. Would you? Oh, I guess so. So why don't we split the difference and we'll do it for 6.5. Usually they laugh at, like, you tried to get me. That's not splitting the difference. It's 6. Okay, you got me. 6.25. I mean, you can really have fun with this. But my point is, it's a way to make sure that you get 6, and if you start off at 6, you're going to take it for 4.5 or 5, right? And it's a way to address something that you opened up a long time ago, a month ago, when they ask you in this phone call, what's your commission? I have a number of commission schedules. It really depends on, you know, what that is. And by the way, if they're a real jerk and you're thinking, oh, this is overpriced, and they want me to call them every other day, maybe you just stick with 7. You have that option. Okay. Any other questions?
Nope.
Happy day.
You have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye,
Audie.
everybody.
Thanks, Audie.
Thank you, Audie.
Thank you, Audie.
Take the rest of the day off.
Blair, do you have everybody's name that's here? Blair?